How we doing there, boys and girls? Manthieus here, and welcome back to another video. We're going to talk a little bit about prospecting in this video, and we're going to go through the ins and outs of exactly how you can set up prospecting, because whilst TSM out of the box does most things reasonably well, there are quite a few tweaks and changes you need to make to Tradesco Master specifically to get prospecting working correctly. Now, you may have noticed there's no camera in this one. Sometimes you've got to have an ugly day, right? So we're going to focus on the in-game stuff, and you're just going to have to listen. What I have done though is prepared a little bit of a masterclass guide here, which is available to you guys through the Shadowlands cheat sheet if you want to view this for yourself. First thing we need to understand though about prospecting is we need to understand how the Oars link together with each other. There is some synergy between the Oars, and once we understand the synergy between them, understanding which ones to buy and which ones we should be prospecting to get the essences or the gems that we're looking for will all start to make a little bit more sense. So Leystrike Ore, for example, Leystrike Ore actually prospects into all the different essences, the 4 different essences. You can get all of them through Leystrike, all of them at an equal rate. Now, obviously, if you only prospect 100, 200 ores, you're probably going to get an imbalance of essences. But by the time you've prospected thousands upon thousands of these different ores, you'll find that Leystrike balances out at an equal rate. And of course, you get a whole bunch of gems to go with it. The zone-specific ores, so here I'm talking about the Phaedrum, the Oxane, the Sinvir, and the Solanum, the ones that can only be found in one specific zone. Those themselves, they only prospect into one specific essence, but they do so at twice the rate to what Leystrike does. This is a handy little thing to be aware of when it comes to, once again, deciding which one you should be buying. For your prospecting purposes, and of course likewise you get a bunch of gems out the back of it. Elythium ore is usually the most expensive of ores, but this is very similar to Leystrike in terms of it prospects into everything. You can get all the essences from Elythium, with the bonus of there being a 10 times the prospect rate that what Leystrike does. This creates a nice synergy between the prices. If your Elythium is less than 10 times the price of Leystrike ore, you would probably rather prefer to prospect Elythium over the Leystrike, because they have that, that link between them. So what does this mean then? This means that, well, if you're a jewel crafter and you're trying to do some prospecting and you're doing it for the purpose of creating both the Shadowghast rings and necklaces, you should probably be prospecting Leystrike the majority of the time, or Elythium when the price is right. Sometimes you will want to focus on prospecting Elythium simply because it's much quicker. You get 10 times the essences in the same amount of time as what it takes to prospect Leystrike. Even using mass prospecting Leystrike, it's relatively slow, especially by the time you want to make a few of those higher rank rings and necks. You're going to churn through these essences really quickly. If you're a jewel crafter though that only focuses on either the rings or the necks, you're probably going to want to prospect the zone specific ores, but only when the price is right. Only if the zone specific ore is less than 2 times the value of Leystrike, would you want to focus on prospecting the zone specific ores. But of course, if you're only crafting one or the other, there's only 2 out of the 4 essences you're going to be targeting. Prospecting Leystrike or prospecting Elythium is going to give you a supply of the other essences that you may not necessarily want, meaning that you're going to have to also look at selling those to make the whole venture profitable. This is why prospecting is kind of cool, and there's always gold to be made with prospecting, for the simple fact that there's no right answer, and those of you that can use all of the materials that you gather by prospecting are the ones who are likely to see the most profit from the profession. Let's take a little look at the prospecting rates then. How many essences should we expect to get when we're prospecting? This does change ever so slightly. These numbers are about as accurate as I can get them at this point. So far through Shadowlands, I've prospected probably millions of Leystrike ore at this point, with more and more Elythium ore as of late, since the price has come down on it quite nicely. But every time you prospect a single piece of Leystrite, or you should expect 0.03 essences. Now, of course, multiply this out by, you know, often stacks and stacks and stacks of Leystrite, you'll get a certain amount of essences. But of course, the essences that you get are going to be random. There's one of 4. Same for Elysium, but like we said earlier, there is 10 times the prospecting rate for the essences from the Elysium, which is also why it's usually a lot more expensive. The zone-specific ores, you're going to get 0.06 essences for every single piece of ore that you prospect. Now, gems, this is a slightly controversial opinion. A lot of people ask me what to do with the gems. Vendor all of the gems. You are going to end up with way too many of them. For the purpose of prospecting, we consider all of the gems to be vendored. The way we set up Trade School Master is with a baseline value for gems on the understanding that we're going to vendor them all. If you choose to do something else with the gems, that is up to you. But of course, crafting them into clusters or duplets or even jewellery is going to take not only more time, but more effort. And additionally then give you slightly more items to be trying to sell. So there is slightly more profit to be made, but for the purpose of prospecting, especially if you're doing this for the legendaries, you are going to want to vendor all your gems. Now, that's the main rules to understand about prospecting. Once you should know all of this before you try and do anything in game. If you understand all of that and you're aware of that, it makes the whole process a lot easier. But let's start to look at what we're going to do in game. And the very first thing we're going to need to do with Trade School Master to get Trade School Master set up is to fix a few things. First thing on our list is to fix the mass prospecting values. What do I mean by this? Well, if you open Jewel Crafting and you scroll down to wherever the mass prospects are, here we go, you'll see by default I've tried to butcher my profile to make it as vanilla as possible, but you can see when you first load in Jewel Crafting with a default setup with Trade School Master, it just shows like negative profit for all of these. Although that's not strictly true, the reason that it's showing negative profits is because there's a quirk within Trade School Master that we need to fix. We need to fix these item value numbers. Now, it's a bit counterintuitive to how you do this, but I'll show you exactly how we do it. What we need to do is we need to create a group with all 6 of the Shadowlands Oars. So we'll do a /TSM. We'll go to our groups. Now, if you're using my group setup, if you've either picked up the groups or if you're a Patreon, you'll have something that looks very similar to this, and you'll have ore. This will have all of the ores in it, so if you're using my groups, you'll already have this ready and waiting. What you want to do is go to operations, and you want to assign a crafting operation. Now, we're not actually crafting these ores. This is why it's slightly counterintuitive. But if we add an operation to this, and you want to make an operation called Mass Prospect. I've already made it, but I'll show you exactly what it contains. The Mass Prospect one, ignore all of this restock options. None of that matters. The only thing that matters to us here is this crafting value. We're going to adjust how Trade School Master values the items when calculating a profit. You want a craft value of 20 multiplied by destroy. Destroy is a price source in Trade School Master that is generated whenever you break something. So this could be prospecting for us, it could be disenchanting for the enchanters out there, it could be milling for the scribes out there. Destroy is basically a value of those items if you're to break them down. Now, when we're mass prospecting, we're destroying 20 pieces of ore at the same time. So we want to multiply the destroy value by 20. With this in place and attached to the group, let's just double check that it's on the group. It is. With that in place, when we now go back into Trade School Master and we scroll to, where's it gone? I've lost it. Here we go. When we scroll to mass prospecting, you can see things start to look a little better. We're starting to see that, well, actually, if we take 20 pieces of Elysium, that's going to cost us 1,600 gold. We are likely to generate 2,400 gold worth of materials every time we press this button. But this is still not perfect. This is a good step in the right direction, but it's still not perfect. What we need to do is we need to have a little bit more control over this destroy price source. We need to make sure that the destroy price source is not using what it defaults to, basically. So the next thing on our list is we need to do another /TSM. Go into the settings for Trade Skill Master, and weirdly we're actually going to tooltip settings here. Sounds odd, I know, but you'll see over to the right hand side here you'll have this destroy value source. Now by default the destroy value source is your auction house DB, the market value. It just considers the market value of all of the items you get when you prospect. This is not really super helpful for us. This would be helpful if we were planning on prospecting solely for the purpose of just prospecting to then sell the items, but even then it's not too convenient. We can change this though, and my suggested one to change it to is crafting material cost. It's right down the bottom of the list, but crafting material cost is going to give us a much better valuation for what we'll get out of destroying. So now with that change made, let's take a step back into Trade Skill Master and look how that's affected things. Okay, now we can see, now the profit margins have come down a little bit, but it's still not quite perfect. What we need to actually do now, the third thing we need to do is take a little bit of a look at what Trade Skill Master considers the material value for the items that we're going to get by prospecting. That's going to be the gems, the essences, and also the ore itself. So to bring this back in real quickly, you can see we've done number one, we've created the group, we've fixed the mass prospecting values. We've done number two, we've adjusted by adjusting the destroying value to come from the material price. Now we need to adjust the materials. So we've got the gems, the ores, and the essences. Feel free to, like I said at the beginning, jump on and grab yourself a copy of the Shadowlands cheat sheet so you can copy paste these in game. But we've got some custom prices for the materials in question. So let's do this in order. And how do we do this? Well, firstly, you want to open your profession window, then navigate to reports. And from there, make sure you've got the materials tab selected. Now we're going to want to go through the materials one by one and make sure that we have a correct value attached to these materials. So let's first look at the gems. The gems we get there's the three different colors of gems. Now valuing these at market price is ludicrous. The chance of you selling them in the quantities that you are going to obtain them at market value is just never going to happen. Like we said earlier, we're going to consider all of the gems vendor trash. We're just going to give them straight to a vendor because we're going to have too many of them. So Oriblas. Let's first take Oriblas and let's change the map price on this. This is what your material price will probably look like by default if you've just got, you know, Trade Skill Master out the box. Maybe you might have customized this a little bit previously to show something different, but all of this can go. We don't need any of this shenanigans. For the purpose of gems, we are going to simply put a hard fixed value of 2 gold and 50 silver. Why? Because that's exactly how much we can give them to the vendor for. 2 gold and 50 silver is the vendor value for each of these gems. So we're going to want to replicate that 3 times over. We've done the Oriblas. Let's do Anger's Eye. 2 gold, 50 silver again. Remember to hit the save button after. You can always check that it's actually worked by looking at the map price column here, and you can see now it's showing 2 gold 50. The third one is Umbriel. Do the same again, make sure we hit save, and there we go. There's the gems sorted. Now with the gems sorted, what we can actually see is the destroy values. Good opportunity to show you some other things that we should probably have. I know this is a slight detour. We'll finish the map prices in a second, but go into your settings and go into your tooltip settings. Something that's very handy to view in the values section of your tooltip is not only the prospecting value, but also the detail to destroy information. Now I can't remember if these are on or off by default, but you want to make sure that both these two are on. What that will do is when we hover over an ore, you can now see that it shows the prospect value, and it also shows you the breakdown of exactly what materials you'd expect and what value we are assigning to those materials when we get them. So you can see if we prospect Phaedrum, for example, you're going to get some Essence of Rebirth, you're going to get some, and then, you know, there's a small chance of getting the gems as well. Now that we've adjusted the gem value, you can see that they all show as 2 silver and 75 copper, which is good. That's what we want. We need to change the rest of the materials though. So let's go back into our materials list. Let's do the ores. The ores are a simpler one. We want to go lacerite ore. Now, like I said, this is roughly what you get as default, which is a good sort of catch-all material price, but some of this doesn't really matter to us. Crafting, we're not actually crafting lacerite ore, so that can go. Nor are we able to buy lacerite from a vendor, so that can go. Nor are we able to actually convert it in any way, shape or form, so that can go also. But we do want something a little bit more than just the DB market price, because we're going to be buying ore. Until we've bought ore, it's good to know what the market price is, but we are going to be buying lots of ore. So we want to put our smart average buy into here as well. So we want it to pick the smallest. If we've bought ore and we've got a stockpile of ore already, we want it to take the smart average buy price, assuming it's cheaper. But you know, we want it to fall back onto the market price if that happens to be cheaper. So that's a good starting point for us for there. There's a comma there that shouldn't be. But all of these are in the just copy paste them from here. That's the easiest thing to do. So we got it's going to be the same for all the ores. So let's quick fire through these. We've got lacerite, we've got lithium. Remember, oh no, hang on, that's not right. That's not right, please hold. There we go. We got the smart average buy and DB market. That's the correct one we want to be putting in there. Let's do the Phaedrum ore. You can see the map prices are going to considerably change on some of these to make it way more accurate to exactly how we're dealing with Dawn crafting. Let's quickly throw those in there. Synvit, we need Oxane. And finally, Solanum. I can never remember the names of all of these. Solanum ore, there we go. So, there's our materials done. The last thing on the list, and the one that throws everybody through the loop, is the essences. If you take a look here, you'll see that the essence, the material price for the essences is a lot more complicated. There's a lot more things going on here. I'll explain what these things going on are. Let me first copy the first one though. So let's do essence of rebirth. And let's paste this in. What does this mean though? What are we actually doing here? Let's try and explain what this material price is. Well, if we think about it logically, there's 3 possible ways that we could get essences. We could buy them, and if we've bought them, we want to use the smart average buy price, assuming it's the cheapest. The other alternative is if we haven't bought them yet, we want to know what the market price is. But of course, what we're actually doing is we're prospecting. So this last bit of the material price is actually the prospect values for each of the different ores that we could prospect when getting this. We could, of course, our options are prospecting lacerite, where there's a chance to get rebirth. We could prospect a lithium, where there's a chance to get rebirth. And we know essence of rebirth can also be prospected from Phaedrum ore. So what these 3 mat prices divided by a number is basically the prospecting rates of each of the materials. And then we're taking the smallest one. This is important, that it takes the smallest of the prospecting values and then compares it against the price that we've paid and compares it against the current market price and then takes the smallest of all of that combined. So we've got one for Essence of Rebirth. The next one on our list should be Torment. Now these are going to slightly change, so make sure you copy and paste in the right one. Let's take this. For Torment, hit save. We need to do what's next on our list. Servitude. Let's take the Servitude one. Copy that. Paste it in. Although these look very similar, they are ever so slightly different. So make sure you get the right ones in. And then Valor finally Copy and paste. In we go. There we go. So now you can see we've got some slightly different prices starting to appear for the essences. Some of them are even the same. For example, look, Essence of Rebirth 249.67, Essence of Torment 249 as well. That's an indication that we're acquiring those probably by prospecting the same ore. But now we've got the materials in place, everything should slowly but surely start to be falling into place much better now. If we open our Jewel Crafting, we go over to crafting and we take a look at our mass prospecting. Now we can see that there's this is about as accurate as we can probably get it at this point. This means for me right now, prospecting a lithium is actually really profitable. Just prospecting a lithium and selling the results off is of great benefit to me right now. I should probably get on and do some of that. But sometimes, this is all good and well, but sometimes we need some essences and we also want to know, well, what is just the cheapest way to get them? So I've got some bonus price sources. This part is entirely optional. From this point on, you could run your jewel crafting, you could run your crafting queues, you could craft your rings and necks, and you'll be away to the races knowing that all the values in Trade School Master are relatively accurate. But there are some bonus custom price sources here. So what we're going to want to do is try and find out which of the ore should we be prospecting to get the essences at the cheapest price. So we're going to use custom price sources, but a custom price source is designed so that it can only show a fixed gold value. Because of this, we're going to use a little code. We're going to create some custom price sources that if it shows us 1 gold, it means you should be prospecting lacerite. If it shows us 2 gold, you should be prospecting a lithium. And if it shows us 3 gold, you should be prospecting the zone-specific ores. Now, all of this will start to make a little bit more sense in a minute. So let's firstly copy this first one. And let's open up TSM, either with a /TSM or by clicking on the minimap icon. We go to Settings and we go to Custom Price Sources. We now want to add a new custom price source and we're going to call this Rebirth. And we're going to paste in that string and we're going to click confirm. We're going to do the same for the 4 additional ones. So the next one on our list is going to be Torment. Let me copy in Torment, add a new one. Thirdly, we're going to do Servitude. I suggest you call these exactly the same as what I have. The names for custom price sources cannot have numbers in them, nor can they have capitalization. So everything has to be lowercase. It does mean sometimes you have to get creative with your custom price sources. But with those 4 posted in, we can see we've got Rebirth, Torment, Servitude, and Valor. The additional thing you want to do is go back into the tooltip settings and make sure we can see those on our tooltips again. So we've got Rebirth, Servitude, Torment, and Valor. Now I've been a little wizardry goblin and I've made these operations so that they don't spam your tooltips. They will only show when you hover over the essences. So here we can see if we hover over the essence of Rebirth, you've got the custom price source Rebirth. It shows us 2 gold, which based on our little code. If I put this over here, if it shows 2 gold, it means we should be prospecting a lithium. That's the cheapest way to get it. And we can also see that Torment, for example, shows us 3 gold, as well as Valor showing us 3 gold, meaning the cheapest way to acquire those potentially is through prospecting the zone-specific ores instead. But if we hover over something that is not one of the essences, you can see they don't show up. So it's designed in a way so it doesn't spam your tooltips. So there we go. That's basically everything you need to do to get prospecting up and running and giving you as accurate a numbers as possible. You could now theoretically go out there and even do nothing more than just buy some materials and prospect them as and when it says it's profitable here. You'll start to see that lithium is the one that you'll probably end up be prospecting most, followed by lacerite. Very rarely is it actually profitable to prospect the zone-specific ores. And in fact, if nothing shows as profitable, the likelihood is that you should actually be buying the essences off the auction house. Somebody's done the prospecting and is undervaluing their essences, and that's your opportunity to pick them up cheap. So I hope that helps you, boys and girls. Like I said at the beginning, this Shadowlands cheat sheet is available to everybody. It's pinned in my Discord. It's called the Prospecting Masterclass tab. You can find it if you scroll through. Plus, there's plenty of other things to get you up and running for any sort of gold making in Shadowlands. If you enjoy these videos, remember to give the video a like. Consider jumping on the Patreon. If you jump on the Patreon, you get my Shadowlands professions, my TSM groups, and all of the operations to go with them. So you can be really up and running, making a whole bunch of gold very, very quickly. But boys and girls, I'll leave it there for today. Like the video if you enjoyed it, leave your comments down below. I'd like to hear if there's any suggestions to adjust this in any way, shape or form, or if you do something else. I'm always keen to hear your viewpoints on this. But I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.